Well, hello, this is Corinna Bench. Welcome to all my farmer friends. I am the host of this Facebook group where I am originally broadcasting this video training, and also the owner of sharedlegacyfarms.com and mydigitalfarmer.com. So if you are watching for the first time, I want to say a special welcome to you, all of you who have been here for a while and tune in on a regular basis. A big shout out to all of you. Thanks for supporting me and wanting to keep learning. So every week I show up and do a video training on some sort of aspect of digital marketing. And it usually has to do with things that I'm working on right now. And this week I'm going to be talking you through how to design and execute a challenge and how to use a challenge to help market your farm and to build your brand, generate leads. There's so many things that challenges can do. So we're just gonna dive right into the training, and this is gonna be kind of a step-by-step process for how to make a challenge yourself, because I'm actually making one right now. I'm gonna be executing it in about 7 days. I've been in the process of plotting and planning. So I wanna kind of walk you through what I have done. So first of all, what is a challenge? You may not even know what I'm talking about. And this is something that you see a lot on the digital marketing scene. And basically what it is it's a short-term time period where you challenge people in your audience to do something specific, to learn, to grow, to try something out. And it usually runs between 7 to 14 days, not more than that. And the goal is to get your target audience to engage and to try something, to do something every day of the challenge. And in the process, they are learning a new skill set and they're becoming more loyal to you. Here are some examples of challenges that I have run in the last year. I have done the freezer challenge, which was for 14 days. People had to use something from their freezer every single day for that series of time, and that was during January when things were kind of slow in the CSA world, and I was trying to find a way to recharge my audience. I also did something called the Instant Pot Challenge, where I decided I was going to try and learn how to use the Instant Pot, and I was going to document my journey along the way and hopefully encourage other people in my audience to maybe try it out as well. So I had a 7-day, 9-day series of videos where I showed how I was using the Instant Pot and encouraging people to try it themselves. I've done something called the Fiscal Fast, where I didn't spend any money for 10 days. I can't remember how long I did it, but I was not allowed to spend any money at all except to buy gas. That was the only thing I allowed myself to do. And so I documented what that was like, and I had to really figure out how to use the stuff again from around my house. And then finally, the new one that I'm working on right now is called the Lunchbox Challenge, which I'm really excited about because I have been feeling this pain point of how do I create better lunches for my 2 boys who are in elementary school. And I decided, you know what, I think that some of my audience members probably struggle with this too. I want to get better at this, so I'm going to do some research and figure out how to do it better, and I'm going to document my journey along the way. And it's going to become the theme for the September challenge, to teach my members how to get better at making lunches for their kids. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today, is how I'm designing this Lunchbox Challenge. We're going to use that as kind of an example of what a challenge could be. But you can develop a challenge around any topic in your farm. So what is step one? Well, step one for me when I'm thinking about it, how to design a challenge, is I want to discover a pain point. All right. You want to define what the challenge is, and in order to figure out what that challenge will be, you usually find a pain point. What's something that you know your audience is struggling with, or maybe it's something that you're struggling with and you want to learn it yourself. That's often the motivator for me, is that I actually am selfish. I want to learn something, and since I'm going to go and research it and do it myself, why don't I just document my journey and then help my members come alongside me and learn with me? That's been the impetus for every single challenge that I've done so far, and probably will continue to be. So the Lunchbox Challenge literally came out of my head like 3 weeks ago when school began to start, and I woke up in the morning and I would come into my kitchen and stare at my cupboards and just be like, I do not know what to make. And I felt like I was making the same lunch, 2 lunches every single time. My kids didn't seem very inspired by it. And I just thought there's got to be a better way for this to work. I don't want to feel like this every morning. I mean, we're just starting school and I was starting to feel it again. So that's kind of what caused me to think about, let's figure this out. Let's create a challenge around this. This is going to focus me to get better at it. So find the pain point that you are actually feeling and then create a challenge around that. The second thing that I do after I've defined what I want my challenge to be is I define the dates. So usually a challenge is a very short period of time. It can be 7 days, it can be 14 days. I wouldn't go any more than that. I think I have tried going longer than that. Here's why it needs to be short. Your audience, if you want them to come alongside you, they only have the attention span of being able to do it for a short amount of time. It's just too long if you take it past 14 days, in my opinion. Plus, it's hard for me. I can contribute, I can create content on for 14 days. I can give it a go for 14 days, but beyond that, it really does start to feel like it's dragging on and you begin to lose momentum. And the whole point of creating a challenge is to jumpstart the engagement level in your community. So a lot of times I'll think about what challenge can I make when I sense that my community is starting to lag a little bit and I need a little bit of a zing, I need to put some energy back into the room. Or if I just need to find a way to focus my content, if I'm struggling to figure out what do we talk about right now, then I can create a challenge, and it really helps me for a short period of time to know I know what to talk about every day. We have a focus. We're learning something together very specific. So step number 3 is then once you've decided what it's going to be and how long you want it to be and defining the dates, then you need to tease your audience that you're doing it. So you don't want to just wake up one morning and say, okay, we're starting the Lunchbox Challenge today, here we go. If you want them to participate, you need to give them a few days heads up that it's coming. And so the way that I tease my audience is I usually write a blog post a week or 2 before I want to start about my pain, about my journey, about this is what I did. You can actually look on my website, SharedLegacyFarms.com, and look for it in the blog post section. But I created a blog where I just sort of shared my soul and I got really raw and real. And it was a hard blog post to write because I know a lot of my members think that I am superhero farmer's wife who's got it all down. And that's probably because I show up a lot to do teaching and guide them and show them how to use their food. So they probably think that I'm a master at this, when in reality, I struggle every morning. And so for me to get in front of my audience and write a blog post that really gets inside my head of all the things, all my fears, all the reasons why I feel compelled to do lunch the way I do. And there's just so many elements that are layered inside my head. You have no idea. You should go read the blog post. And I just poured it all out. And I thought, oh man, what are people going to think? That I'm some kind of psycho girl? I felt like I was on the psychiatrist's couch giving some kind of a testimony. But in the process, what ended up happening, I got a lot of response from that blog post of other people saying, I feel the same way. I'm so excited for this challenge. So I usually do that about 2 weeks ahead of time to kind of prime the pump and let people know, I'm feeling this pain. Are you feeling this too? And then I sort of tease it and say, hey, something's coming. I'm going to be creating an opportunity for us to get better at this. And then I also ask for advice at the end of this blog post. And I actually got maybe 5 or 6 people who wrote me long emails of suggestions for how I can get better at making lunches. And what I love about this is that I usually take that advice, and I actually have a file folder here, and I print it out and I put it in here with my research that I do to prepare for the challenge. And I use a lot of those suggestions when I create the content during the challenge, because I love to be able to say, well, Esther Hertzfeld is one of our members and this is what she recommended. Because not only is it a great tip, it's probably a really relevant one because she's actually doing it, but it ends up stroking her as well, and she hears me talk about her in the community, and that makes her feel like she just added value to everyone else. So this advice gave me questions, gave me categories that I hadn't even thought of that I could add into my challenge later when I created the content. Okay, so I tease my audience using a blog post. You could also use just a video, or you could just do a normal post and quickly talk about your pain or something and just say, hey, I'm going to be doing something soon. Get ready. Do you have any tips and advice for me? Okay, step 4, I then spend a full, I probably spent 2 or 3 hours researching the topic. So here's how I research. I went on Pinterest, okay? That's where I started in the case of the Lunchbox Challenge because it just seemed like a very logical place to go. There are already a ton of ideas on Pinterest all around this topic. This is not something that is rare, okay? I think a lot of moms and dads struggle with this. And there are tons of ideas for how to create a lunchbox, for the types of gear you might need to do it well, hacks for how to do this well. So I just spent 2 hours looking at pins. I created my own board to kind of file and archive things away. I went into some of these blog posts and read them and took some notes and saw that there were patterns. And some of the things jumped out at me because I just thought, wow, that's really neat. Some of the stuff I was like, I don't think my audience would really get into that. And I started to see categories emerge. And I just kept track on a giant notepad of all of these ideas as I went through. So going to see what someone else has already put out there is a huge help in this, and it really didn't take me that long. And I took some notes. All right, then step 5 was to actually plan the content of the challenge. And then I actually did this with my community manager. Now, you may not have a community manager, but I happen to have one for my private Facebook group for my CSA. And so she came over to my house. We spent 2 hours going through my notes. She had also done research on a lot of the same Pinterest sites as myself, as it turned out. And so we just had a back and forth discussion. It was really fun. We went through what some of our brainstorm ideas were, and we mapped it out onto a calendar. So this is what we did. So we got these little mini Post-it notes like this. And as we talked through our ideas, if we both liked the idea, we wrote it down onto a mini Post-it note and just stuck it on my coffee table. And after we'd gone through all of our ideas, we then took out this calendar, and I printed another one out for her, and we just took the Post-it notes and started plotting them onto these 2 weeks. You can see that they're covered here, so that we knew kind of an order, like a scope and sequence. What made sense to talk about first? When do we think we're going to see a lull in activity? Where should we put this content? And so that's sort of how we mapped it all out. I'll give you some examples of some of the things we plan to talk about. So on the front end, we knew that in order to gather people in, we were going to need some kind of a lead magnet. We were going to need something that people would want to download to actually initiate and start the challenge. And so we said, you know what, to get people started, to help them actually be successful at this, because we want them to have a win. What is it that they need? What would be the most helpful resource to give them at the beginning of the challenge to set them up for success? So that's a question that we always ask when we create challenges. And that usually ends up being the first piece of content that comes out. And in this case, it's going to be a freebie. It's going to be a PDF of the, top 50 lunchbox ideas. And we're just going to create them into categories. We're going to have protein, vegetable, fruit, carb, and dairy. And we're just going to list out, 20 different ideas for each category so they can print this out, put it in their kitchen. Because I know for me, that's probably the resource that's going to be most helpful for me, is to have a list to look at every morning so I don't just freeze in my mind. So we're going to create that, post that, and it's going to become our lead magnet. That's going to be the first thing that we do. Then we had ideas like, drinks. People are drinking chocolate milk and Capri Suns and putting that in their lunchbox. Like, that is so not healthy for children. It's full of sugar. So we're going to have a whole video session one day where we challenge people not to put chocolate milk in their box, not to let their kids buy a chocolate milk, but rather to get a white milk, or to stop putting Capri Suns. Just put water in your child's lunch for this week, okay? Another idea was just a question post like, hey, what do you do when your kids don't eat the food you put in their box? So we have that kind of halfway through. That's going to be the post that goes up, and we're just going to see what kind of engagement we get back. And we have another one that's another video training for how you can freeze peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We found that as a quick hack, and I'm like, that's really awesome. I have a freebie PDF that I'm going to hand out where I have a whole bunch of hacks that I've collected after my research. It's going to be like 20 hacks for kitchen or for lunchbox prep time. And they'll be able to download that and print it out. Another example would be how you can make your own trail mix bags and a recipe for that. Maybe 2 or 3 recipes for different kinds of trail mix, okay? So I'm just kind of giving, that could be a picture post, but that could also be a video training. We haven't decided yet. So we just kind of map all of this out. We came up with a ton of ideas. We couldn't even fit them all on. We picked our top 14, stuck them on here, and then we decided who was going to be in charge of what. So between Katie and myself, we delegated like, hey, I want you to be in charge of making this video. I'm going to be in charge of making the PDF. You're going to do the question post. I'm going to do this picture post on this day. That way it's really clear who's in charge of that. So this is the content creation. And so part of the challenge is that there is actually a piece of content that you inject into the system every day. It can be a small thing or it can be a more advanced thing like a video. It takes a little bit more time and effort, right? But there is always some sort of element that you bring in fresh into the system, okay? So the basic formula that we tend to follow is when we're creating this content is here's something I want you to learn. So there's usually some sort of quick tip or a more advanced video training. And then the second part of the formula is here's what I want you to do today with this tip. Okay, so it's not just, oh, I'm teaching you something, but because it's a challenge and they're participating in the challenge, we give them a challenge. We say, okay, take this, what we just taught you, and I want you to go freeze a peanut butter sandwich today. Go make 5 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and freeze them. That's your challenge. Okay, and they may or may not do it, but there is a challenge that aligns with whatever it is that we taught them. So if we're teaching them, hey, we're going to make some trail mix today, your challenge is to go and get some stuff today so you can make your own 10 bags of trail mix or make your own recipe of trail mix. Okay, so it's important that you have that call to action piece because that's the whole point of the challenge is that you want them to actually do something. They are participating with you in this challenge. You are also doing it as the leader of the challenge. So I have to kind of look ahead, because I know what's coming up and be like, all right, let me make sure I have the props in my house so that I'm not running to the store every single day, right, to go and get things ready to do my challenge. So I will be taking care of that in the next few days, looking at all the things that I need based on what I'm in charge of doing so that I can execute this challenge without totally stressing myself out. So a few other ideas for content that you could put in challenges. We've already talked about quick video trainings and PDF cheat sheets, but you could take a picture of what you've actually made for lunch and post it. In fact, that is what we're encouraging everyone to do who's doing the challenge, to take a photo of their lunchbox that they're making for people in the morning or at night and posting it when they're putting a hashtag with it. Okay, so I will have to do that as well since I'm participating in the challenge. I'm not just creating the content, but I have to post what I made for my kids every morning. You could ask questions, so there could be a question post. You could repost images from participants. So if you're doing this on Instagram and someone posts a really great picture, you can drag that picture out and put it on your other social media channels and give credit to that person and say, here's what so-and-so did. Isn't this great? To kind of inspire them. You could create blog post links. So find other blog posts where people have talked about this that have great resources in them and just link them up. I've already found some in my research. And then other outside resources. There's some great, in my case, some great Instagram accounts that are all focused around how to create great lunches for your kids. Like that's all they do. And I'm starting to follow them now for inspiration. So I'm going to tell people about them. Hey, here's a couple of Instagram accounts that you can also follow during this week. And that may even be one of the challenges that I do is I'll talk about some of the other resources, the other Instagram accounts that they can follow. And the challenge that day will be, I want you to go follow one of these 3 that I've just told you about. And then another suggestion could just be a quick tip that you got from a CSA member. Remember when you were asking for advice, you could reach out to them, get all that advice, compile it, and just be like, that's going to be the content that I'm going to share today, a quick tip in a post. And then I'm actually going to do it as my challenge. Okay, so we've talked about just planning the challenge, coming up with a roadmap for what you want to try and teach, and then what your actual challenge is going to be that aligns with that each day for the people who are doing the challenge with you. Okay, and then step 6 is what I would call pre-launch. So this is kind of 3 days before you actually start, where you actually introduce the challenge. So I'm going to write a blog post this coming weekend. I always write a blog post every weekend because it's what goes in my newsletter for my CSA. But that particular blog post is going to be all about the challenge. It's going to explain the rules of the challenge in more detail, and it's going to invite people in. It's going to explain the prize. It's going to explain how do you participate, what's the hashtag that you have to put on the picture so that I can find it when I'm deciding who the winner is. And I'm going to post this on Facebook. I'm going to post it on Instagram, whatever channels, I guess if you do Twitter, whatever channels you're on, I will post this information, this blog post link. Or you could even just type it out as a post itself. And you want to invite people to join. You want to tell people to come in. I may even do a quick video, live video on one of my pages where I just explain, hey, here's what we're doing. I want to invite you to join us in the next 14 days. This is why I began this challenge, because I'm struggling with lunchboxes and I want you to partner with me. If you're having this problem too, join me for 14 days while we try to figure this out, and we're going to share some tips and tricks with you. Here's how you join, okay? And the content, some of the teaching content will actually start 3 days before the actual challenge begins. So I'm looking at my calendar over there. The actual Lunchbox Challenge begins September 17th, which is a Monday, because that's when kids go to school, and it runs through September 28th, 2018 is when I'm making this video. Okay, so that's 10 days that people are going to do this, but I'm actually going to begin the content stuff 3 days before. On the 14th, I'm going to send out a PDF of those lunchbox ideas, because I figure they're going to need some time to go out and maybe start preparing. And then the 2 days after that, we're going to give them some more tips and tricks, like about gear, maybe some of the things you need to have in your house to do this well. Like you should have a thermos. You should have some little containers that you can put stuff in. You should have an ice box, ice pack. And I'll think of some other things that go along. Those are just the 3 that came off the top of my head. But we'll be teaching some of that relevant content on the front end so they can plan in advance, okay? And every time we teach something, we'll be reminding them about the rules for the challenge and that it starts on Monday, and here's how you can participate. Download this PDF to get started, okay? So that's kind of all part of this pre-launch where you're building up some hype. You're giving the important information that they're going to need to set them up for success. You're talking about that PDF that you want them to grab to help them actually succeed at this, all right? Okay, step number 7 is to actually do the challenge. So that's the 10 days in this case, or 14 if you count the weekends, that we're actually participating in doing the challenge. So every day, I am actually sharing a photo of what I make for my boys. I'm also, because I'm the leader of the challenge, I'm actually creating some kind of a content piece, okay? But I'm encouraging members every day to do what it is that I'm teaching, to do the thing that has alignment with that teaching tip. And I'm encouraging them to share a picture of what they made that day for their kids. Take a picture of the lunchbox. And that becomes then the primary content creation focus for me for that 2-week period. So it's going to be happening inside my private Facebook group, but also more importantly on my business Facebook page, because that's where the branding happens. I want people outside of my CSA to know about this, that this is happening, so that they get interested, they learn about me, they become aware of my brand, they start participating, they start to see me as a teacher and a guide. So it begins to open up conversations with potential new leads. And then at the end of the challenge, I will obviously have to announce the winner. That's going to be its very own video as well. All right, step 8, the final step, is after the challenge. So this is where when I first started doing challenges, I didn't think about the potential for all this awesome content to be reused for later lead generation. So number 1, I just want to say, after the challenge is over, share your takeaways, okay? Don't just like finish up and be like, oh my God, I'm so glad that's done. That was exhausting. No, write a blog post about it. Let that be your newsletter article for your CSA at the end of that 14-week period, and talk about, what did you learn? What were the hard parts? Be honest. Be like, man, this part really stank. This was a total flop, but this is what the big takeaway for me. And just celebrate with your community. Say, good job for those of you who participated. I'm so proud of you. And you can be even highlighting, lifting up photographs, lifting up specific people that did well while you're writing that blog post, okay? And then number 3 is repurpose the content. So this is something that you would probably do then in the off season when you're not quite so crazy. But I can't wait to do it this year. I plan to take this Lunchbox Challenge and turn it into a lead generating machine. Because listen, people will want to do this challenge for 9 months of the year if they're not just going to want to do it in September? So what if I could create something that when they stumble upon it, let's say somebody stumbles upon this blog post or this lead magnet in February and they're struggling to make lunches for their kids, well, they could just take the 14-day challenge in February on their own without maybe the rest of the community around them. But I could create something so that that could happen. So here's what I plan to do. That initial PDF that I'm going to give away to everyone at the beginning of this challenge, I'm going to turn that into a lead magnet. I'm going to create an opt-in form so that people can download it at sharedlegacyfarms.com/lunchbox, and they'll get this lunchbox challenge, the 60 ideas for a lunchbox menu. And then as soon as they do that, it's going to trigger a 14-day email sequence. So I will be writing those 14 emails. I might even be doing them as I do the challenge, but I may end up doing them later. And they're going to align with whatever I taught. So on day one, if I'm going to teach about gear, I'll just do a quick email that says, hey, the first thing you need to do, you got to get these 5 things. It's going to make it so much easier the next 14 days to make lunches and to have a greater variety of things you can do with your kids' lunch. And I'll list them, or maybe I'll link to the video so I don't even have to write a ton in my email. And then the challenge, the call to action in that email will be, hey, go buy, the things on this list that you think would be helpful for you that you don't have. Okay, and that's your challenge this weekend before the challenge starts. So every single day, there will be an email that comes out that aligns with the 14 days that I just made. So I'll repurpose it, right? And what I love about email service providers, ConvertKit, I'm going to be able to just set that up. And I'm going to tell ConvertKit, I'm just going to line them all up in 14 days. I'm going to say, send this day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, right? I can even say, don't send it on a Sunday if I want to. But in this case, because it's a 14-day challenge, I'm going to do it for 14 days. And when they get to the end, the last email, the 15th email, will say, congratulations, hope you learned something, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm gonna issue some kind of a call to action that invites them into the next thing, right? I want them to continue to have conversation with me and my brand. So once they've done this with me, they're gonna know, like, and trust me a lot more. They're gonna have a really positive experience with my brand, hopefully. And they're gonna be more open to me saying, well, here's the obvious next step for you. Why don't you download this freebie? Have you ever thought about CSA? If you have, here are the 6 questions you should ask. Download this now, okay? And then they could suddenly end up going into another one of my email funnels where they start to learn about me. Or I could send them into another lead magnet, the A to Z vegetable storage guide, where they start learning about my vegetable program and my farm, okay? So at the end of that campaign, I plan to then kind of move them into another direction. So don't be afraid to repurpose this content. That's what's so great about challenges, is once you've made it, you can build this machine and then set it up to be a lead magnet for you. And I'll be able to, in my social media posts, I'm going to put that into my regular routine for the rest of the winter. Like maybe every 7 days, I'll have a post about the Lunchbox Challenge, and I'll put up the lead magnet for it. Hey, are you struggling with lunches? We have this awesome 14-day challenge to get better at making lunches, to get started and get the email training that's going to help you through it. Download this PDF. Okay, and that's how it begins, and that's how you get leads into your email list. So that is going to be a super powerful thing. I'm actually going to build that out with my Instant Pot challenge that I made last spring as well, because I haven't done that yet. But I think that could also be another way to get people in. So this is a great way to get people into your sphere of influence. Okay. So before I finish up, I just want to walk you through some important details about setting up rules for the challenge. So as you're trying to figure out, what do I actually tell people how this challenge works? Here are some tips and tricks, okay? First of all, when you explain the challenge and how it works, you need to, number one, make sure you're very clear about when it begins and when it ends. I told my audience this live challenge, okay, when we're doing it live, it starts September 17th and runs through September 28th. But we're actually beginning to give them content a few days earlier, but the actual time when we begin to count points that you can earn to win the prize is September 17th to the 28th. So I really define that. Number two, you have to be very clear about who is eligible. Who can participate in this? So do they need to be a certain age? Do they need to be in a certain location? Do they need to be a CSA member? Or can it be anyone? right? So just think about that and be specific about that in the rules that you post. Number 3, what's the prize going to be? So tell them what it is. So in my case, for the Lunchbox Challenge, I bought a Planet Box, which is sort of like a bento box, and that's going to be the lure, the bait, and one person at random will be chosen to participate or to win that. And then you have to tell them, how are you going to choose the winner? How are you going to choose the winner? So is it going to be all you have to do is post just once? Just post one picture? Do they have to post 3 times? Do they have to tag somebody? Like what's the rule? And are you going to choose it at random? Are you going to choose the person that has the most points? So just be thinking about that, because that's important. And then when are you going to announce the prize? That's always something to say too. How exactly can you enter to win the prize? What do you have to do? So in my case, for the Lunchbox Challenge, I tell people you have to post at least one picture of your lunchbox in the 10 days that you're making lunches for your kids. And you need to hashtag it SL Farms Lunchbox, okay, so that I can find it. That's pretty much all I require of them. But you may want them to tag you at Shared Legacy Farms. So, because if they're posting it on their own personal page and they've tagged you, now you're getting potential branding. If their friends see that, they might be like, who's Shared Legacy Farms? Okay, so that might be a requirement that you want to put in there. Just got to tell them that. That's going to be part of your rules. And then I always have a few disclaimers. So I make sure that I tell them that you, by participating in this challenge, you realize that I have permission to use your images for marketing purposes. So I just put that in there. And then this is important. You must include this phrase. This is a Facebook regulation, or they could technically shut down your challenge or shut down your page. Okay, but this is what it has to say. This promotion is in no way sponsored, endorsed, or administered by or associated with Facebook. You understand that you are providing your information to Shared Legacy Farms and not to Facebook. Any photos you take may be used by SL Farms for future marketing purposes. Oh, I'm sorry. Those last 2 sentences are not required. You only have to go up to the Facebook. I'll read that again. This promotion is in no way sponsored, endorsed, or administered by or associated with Facebook. You understand that you are providing your information to Shared Legacy Farms and not to Facebook. Boom, that's all you have to say. So just put that in some really fine print somewhere. That's important. So why do I love challenges? Here's the great benefit for them. They can really liven things up for me in the off season. I usually try to plan at least 2 challenges in the winter time because my Facebook group is so active, my private Facebook group during the summer, it's crazy. But then when we're done with the boxes, they kind of don't know what to talk about anymore. There isn't this constant new infusion of material coming in like there is in the summer. There isn't a vegetable to really focus on because we go on break. Now, as the community manager, Katie and I, we have to kind of curate that a little bit and try and provide a little bit of content throughout the winter, but it's certainly not like it is in the summer. But if we create challenges, that really helps me focus. It's like, okay, now I have something to focus all my energy on as I'm creating content for this group. And it gives it like a new purpose for my community. Plus, it teaches something new to my tribe and it grows them. So we've always talked about, in this group, we've talked about how important it is to know what it is that your customer wants. Why are they coming to your CSA farm? What are they hoping to get? What's their aspirational motivation? What problem are you solving? So if you can get them to that after state that they desire, if you can do some life transformation through this challenge, that moves them further along into your customer journey. They're going to be more loyal. Okay, so teaching something to your tribe, using a challenge to teach something to your tribe is a great way to grow a customer and make them more loyal to you. So challenges have been a huge branding effort for me as well, because I'm doing them on my public facing business page. It's a great way to get leads into my funnel because I have people that begin to do the challenge who aren't a part of my CSA. And they're like, wow, that sounds like fun. I'm going to do that. And now all of a sudden they're in my sphere of influence. Every day they're coming to check in with me. I begin to be seen as a guide, as an expert and authority in this space. And if they decide one day that they want to buy vegetables from a farmer, guess who they're going to think about first? They're going to think about me because I did this for them. I have that know, like, and trust factor with them. So this is a really great strategy, not just for your insiders, but it becomes a huge powerful lead generating machine for you. All right, that's all I have today. That's the nuts and bolts of how to design and execute a challenge. And here's my call to action for you. I want you to join my challenge. I want you to see it in action. So I am going to begin the pre-launch build up and hype on September 14th is when I release that PDF on my social channels. So if you want to download it and go alongside me to watch me do it, this will give you some ideas to do one like this for your own farm. You can just literally just copy the stuff I'm doing and do it for your own farm. But you can also just see the process in action. And I will, by getting your email address, when you download that PDF, you're gonna be tagged as a as a Lunchbox Challenge member. And so you'll also eventually get that email sequence that I'm going to be crafting. And so you can see an example of what that's gonna look like, and you can use that yourself. So you'll be able to head over and get that download I'm talking about at http://www.sharedlegacyfarms.com/lunchbox. Now, it's not ready yet. If you're watching this live with me, I haven't made it, but it will be there by September 21st, okay? So don't try to download it right now because it's not there yet and you'll get this 404 error page. But that's where you'll be able to get that initial PDF with the Lunchbox menu ideas, and it'll start that process with you. All right? Hey, I hope this was helpful. I'm glad to see some of you are on camera watching. And check back in next week where we start talking about another topic here for marketing for CSA farmers. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good one. Bye.